Hi! In this video I want to speak about Russia, partly in relation to what is happening at the moment regarding the war in Ukraine, or let's say, to be more honest, Russian aggression against Ukraine. Because as you know, Ukraine was invaded by Russia in 2014, and there are still fightings going on in the eastern part of Ukraine, as in the Lugansk and Donetsk region. Now, since I'm also a historian, I always try to understand the present, what's happening at the moment, through understanding the past. And my experience from reading history books and other books, like if you speak about, let's say, political science or sociology or law of studies and so on, is that by reading older books, let's say books that are 5 or 10 years older than the contemporary development, can provide you with better insights and understanding why the situation is as it is at the moment. So a book I want to speak about in this video is called Waiting for Reform Under Putin and Medvedev by Lena Johnson and Stephen White. It looks like this, and the book was actually partly published in cooperation with the Swedish Foreign Policy Institute based here in Stockholm. And this book, I bought it actually when I was a student of military history at the Swedish Defense College in 2012 when the book was presented. And at that time I was also studying Russian language. Partly because I had aspirations to work as a historian, also by going to archives and similar places in Russia in order to do research. So what I find here with the book very interesting is that this book is actually a collection of essays, of articles from different authors and different writers, everything from history, political science, sociology, international relations, security studies, and so on. I can mention two aspects from this book that are, for me, still very, very interesting. One is Putinism. The second one is modernizatia, or modernization. So let's start with Putinism. So according to what's written here in the book, with Putinism is meant, among other things, is that the government, in this case the Russian government, creates institutions that in democracies are usually, let's say, non-governmental. So let's say in a democratic society as here in Sweden, the civil society is, how to say, independent or separated from the government. Well, to be honest, like many civil society organizations, that they do get some benefits from the government, but still they are not part of the government. The people who are employed there are not directly paid by the government, or they're not government employees. And in Russia, the case with Putinism is that the government, through its institutions, creates certain institutions like civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, and controls them more or less directly, not only by providing benefits, but ensuring that people in these organizations are loyal not to the government, but let's say the whole Putin regime itself. So that's basically Putinism, that the government is doing things, controlling things, providing things that in open, free democratic societies is done by NGOs and civil society organizations, CSOs. Now, when it comes to the second aspect of modernization, what can be read in the book is that there is like, like a pattern in Russian history, that modernization is not about modernization of, let's say, society in general, of people's hearts and minds, but it's modernization of the state, the government, the public institutions. So in practice, let's say it means that, okay, so our state is, let's say the Russian state is now more modern, because we have more computers, we have better technological equipment, we have, let's say, more staff that is educated in IT skills and so on. So there is this pattern in Russian history that modernization is acceptable when it comes to technology, but not so acceptable when it comes to more social aspects, when it comes to ideas. Because in this case, modernization of Russia, if you now speak about society, that would mean transformation to democracy. That would mean transformation to, let's say, more free media, more, how to say, freedom of expression, and those aspects that Putin and other, let's say, authoritarian, nationalist, collectivist politicians and structures simply don't want to see in today's Russia. So the book is now, let's say, almost 10 years old, but if you read it, and I really recommend that, if you read it, you will be able to understand Russia much better than if you, let's say, read an article in The Guardian or New York Times or even Moscow Times or something like that. Because then you really understand, like, the background, why things are as they are at the moment. And also, one case with the book is that it kind of really explains that Russia has many problems, both as a state and society, that at certain point are simply going to end up very bad, because a government system that is very slow in changing, that is very, how to say, reactionary or simply refusing to change, it cannot last forever. We all know let's say, we know about, in general, like in Europe and United States and so on, we know the history of the Soviet Union, how it ended. It partly collapsed because it was socially unsustainable and the system was simply not changing enough and not reforming enough. And it was also created on very bad grounds and inhuman and so on. And the case of Russia is basically that Ukraine really has a chance to reform itself as a state and as a nation, partly through Europeanization process, like of future membership in the, let's say, European Union, while Russia is stagnating when it comes to governance and public institutions. So, thank you very much for listening. I recommend the book, and I will put more information about that in the video description. So, have a nice day.